see you, but I can read your chat. So please tell me where you're from. Okay, hello from Catamarca. Okay, welcome. Hello, Catamarca. Very good. I love doing this. I feel like Miss Legrand, you know. Okay, it's nice to see so many teachers interested in all this. Villa Ballester, Rosario, Entre Rios, very federal. Good. Okay. Right, Uruguay as well. Venado Tuerto. Okay. Concordia, Carlos Casares, Comodoro Rivadavia. Very good. Okay. Thank you so much. It's always nice to share. This is a corner, this is a space we have to share experiences. Okay, General Pico, La Pampa, La Matanza, Ciudad Jardín, Monte Grande, great. Lovely, lovely to see so many people here. As I told you, I cannot see you, but I will try to read everything you tell me. It's very important to share. It's very important to tell me what you think, if you agree or if you don't agree. The title today is The Emerging Paradigm. And I have done this workshop, and many teachers expect tips about technology. I'm not going to talk about technology. I will just mention technology, but this is much more than that. Okay, it's about things that you have to consider from now on and things that you have to reflect upon from now on. Okay, so the idea today is this, starting from this. This is what somebody said. I saw this post and I really liked it. At the end of my kids being out of school, after our attempts, several attempts, that's the idea, at homeschooling, my conclusion is that teachers are superheroes. And can I ask you, why do you think some parents believe we are superheroes? What has this, or why have we been transformed into superheroes? Hello from Peru, I love it. Okay. Why do you think we are considered superheroes? Some parents may not agree, but some do. Why? Because we are patient, right? Okay, because we always find an answer to a problem, right? All right, because we have learned really soon how to cater for their needs, how to solve problems, because we have to deal with so many different things, and we managed to do it. We have managed to do it, and we will go on managing. We have good, very good, in spite of everything. I like all the phrases you're writing here, because we fight for education. We know what we used to do before this virus appeared. We know what we used to do. We know what we had to do. We knew in the past what to choose, what not to choose, how to go about difficult situations. And now, suddenly this virus has cropped up and we have a big question mark. We don't know what will happen. And many people say everything will change. We will never go back to the past. And I agree. Jorgelina is saying we are like an octopus. Right. Yes, multitasking people. Right. It's true we'll never go back to the past. But it's not true that everything will change. It is not true that everything will go digital 100% and that people, very soon, we will go back to classrooms. We will go back to our traditions. In a different way, yes, but our classrooms will be very similar. So it will never be 100% different. It will always be a little bit different. And this is what we will reflect on today. What do you think has changed? Everybody's talking about a great change. Everything has changed and will go on changing. Can I ask you what in particular? Teachers are saying the sooner we go back to school, the better. I definitely agree, but we have to be very careful and it will not be so easy. What has changed? The appreciation for our job. Yes, I agree. Now, many parents have only just realized how important we are, how hard we work, how much attention we pay to detail. Okay, we have changed our views on assessment. Very good. Yes, classrooms now are virtual classrooms. Yes, feedback. Good. Now we are facilitators. Definitely. I agree with every single, the use of technology. Exactly. We will go back to all this. Technically, when the question is what has changed, first of all, the general context has changed. So when I say the general context, we so often talk about context, but this is much more serious because we speak about the micro and the macro context. Socially and emotionally, nobody is the same. We are going through difficult situations. Parents are coping with the situation the best way we can, the best way they can. There are problems that we never thought we could face. Like, for example, I never thought that there were people without a computer, for example. I took it for granted that all my private students had a laptop, and I gradually discovered they did not. So when I started teaching, they had to borrow their parents' laptops. That was new to me. I took many things for granted. Time and space have changed. And Juliana says very often without any internet connection. That's true so often in Argentina. Okay, time and space have changed. The concept of time is completely different. It has become vague because we used to have a time to go to school, a time for our lessons. Lessons began and finished at a certain time. We used to have a time for correction, a time to get home and forget about the school. And now everything has become one thing. Mothers or parents in general send us text messages at 10 o'clock in the evening or at night. They wake you up at 5 o'clock. Children send you their homework through photographs, via Zoom, via classroom, by any way, in any kind of device and in any quality, and we have to make an effort to try and correct it. Time is no longer what it was, and we cannot say, I'm not going to answer. We have to answer at any time. As regards space, we have lost our privacy. Our home is the classroom, and the classroom has got a physical part, the four walls, but also it has an emotional part, and the two coincided, and now I've got only one part, which is the physical one, that is my home. So it's no longer a classroom. And Inés Lucel, who is a referent in Argentina, says there is no choreography of bodies because the classroom is much more than the physical thing and my teaching. The classroom is bonding. The classroom is problem solving. The classroom is learning about values. The classroom is connecting, making friends, developing autonomy. All that is lost. And that is what children miss. They don't miss me. They don't miss going to school. They miss bonding, connecting with their friends, that touching and hugging and playing. That is what they miss. So time and space are essential. And that is for the students. Parents invading my space. I am teaching and I've got a mother there saying, tell her, give her the answer. Come on, can't you understand what your teacher is saying? Or parents who don't care, or parents who are cleaning right behind you and the child cannot concentrate. They take part, they say, yes. These are all my own experiences. I have had to ask a father to please stop doing gym next to the child because I was trying to teach simple paths. So, I mean, there are many things that we have had to cope with and to teach. We are more than ever before educators, and now educators of the whole family. Plus the fact that maybe I am here trying to do my best, and maybe you see my husband walking behind me too, because, I mean, after all, I am also a normal person like all of you. So this is the whole thing, okay? And in the middle of all that, the contents that so often we have fought for, the contents that so many times we were worried about. Simple past, present perfect, present simple before or after the present continuous. And now, what about contents? Are we going to be so strict? Does it really matter if we finish or don't finish? Does it really matter if we do teach simple past or not? After all, in difficult situations, the real content, the content that matters, is very often not in books, because it goes beyond all that. And it has to do with what I said before as regards the classroom, with bonding, with values, okay? And then also the use of technology. Technology that we took for granted. I mean, because I am old, but my students, they should be technological 100%. They are going to teach us. That is what we used to think. But our students just use the mobile phones and to send text messages over social networks, to upload videos or funny photographs. They are the future. Says, yes, okay, they are the future. Definitely they are. But now, again, they discovered that we can also teach them, even technology, because they discovered that the cell phone has got other uses apart from social networks. So technology in another way, other apps, other platforms. They are so good using technology, but then they don't know how to turn on their mics. That's right. Yes, you have to remind them. Cameras on, now mics off. Remember, it makes a noise. Come on, all the time. So everything, absolutely everything has changed. Now, in the typical classroom, we used to have these forms of interaction, a teacher with a student with a student with content. And now all these forms of interaction were through classwork with more or less technology and through assignments. We dealt with a flipped classroom or a blended learning, and now teacher and student, yes, there is interaction. There is interaction in the way we can, in the way we decide, in the way that is practical and economical for each of us. And each of us will decide, considering our own reality, our own strategies, our own abilities. Student and student in the virtual situation, that has become very, very difficult unless you've got a platform that allows you to form groups. Okay, vocabulary, zooming in and out, exactly. Okay, many, I'm trying to read and speak at the same time. I've done a course on digital resources, very useful platforms. Yes, we're going to see this. Many teachers have attended courses. There are free courses online, and that's very good. But the important thing is, we will come to that later, that at the beginning we went crazy and we all wanted tutorials, courses. We wanted to try new platforms. The more the better, to surprise our students. And now we are changing. Now we are calm. Now we have decided that we are going to choose what is best for them and what makes me confident, because after all, we have to recover. Even in this virtual environment, in this virtual situation, our confidence and sense of authority. So student-student interaction, difficult unless you can handle groups and real group work, okay? It's very difficult. And student content, big question mark. Big question mark, because very often this depends on time. And what I have found out is that many teachers, and for different situations and for different reasons, are actually teaching face-to-face less than we used to teach before. For different reasons, because children get more tired, because of the connection, because they don't have a laptop or whatever. Really, we are teaching less time. So of course the result will be different. What will happen when we go back to our normal routine? We will try, I'm sure we will try to recover this last part, the content thing. But by then, everything will have changed. The mode, the attitude, the way we use technology, everything will have changed. At the beginning, when this pandemic broke out, we thought that it was going to be for a short time. And anyway, we wanted to surprise our students, and we wanted to surprise parents as well. So we started attending courses, watching tutorials, and we tried different apps and different platforms, G Suite or Google Classroom or Edmodo, and actually, this is like everything else. This is like everything else. All this is great, but all this together is a mess. All this is great when used coherently, logically, in a good way by a good teacher. All this may be a real mess if they are not used meaningfully. And the same happens with material, Hangouts. Yes, there are many, many, many apps and many platforms. Now, the truth is that it's not a question of which platform I'm going to use, because that decision is easy. It depends on my own skills, on my own interests, and my own abilities, and the kind of student I have and my objectives. That's not the problem, because we've got a wide variety. The problem is, what do I do with all this? Because if it is a question of surprising the students and I'm going to have just games, a lot will be lost. If it's going to be passive and I'm just going to upload worksheets on Google Classroom, it's going to be a pain in the neck. So everything has to be balanced. Everything is real teaching after all. And when we talk about teaching, we have to respect all this. It's teaching in a different situation. It's teaching in a different content, but it's teaching. We have to strike a balance. Definitely, Grace, I agree with you. Parents complain about games just because of the fee they pay. We have to stick to the ones we feel comfortable with. Definitely, definitely. Especially when your face-to-face time is reduced. Okay, you have to feel very confident. But above everything else, and this is what I always ask teachers to please remember, that we are not babysitters. It's not a question of keeping the child busy, and it's not a question of just surprising the child. Every time we meet the child, every time we plan a lesson, there should be a clear aim. And the apps and the platforms are tools we have just to achieve that aim. So when I talk about teaching, I have to remember each of the stages. I talk about presenting, and one tool is good for presenting and another tool is better for practice. It's not that everything is the same just because it's fun or just because it's colorful. When I'm talking about revision activities, maybe I can play a little bit more with visual material so as not to make them bored. I may look for another app or another platform. Okay, I've used Kahoot, Genially, but yes, okay. There are many, many apps again, but it's not a question of collecting apps. Children also need routines. Remember that routines stick. Routines help the child internalize. So if you use one specific platform or app for one thing and another for the other, the child will feel more concentrated. Remember that attention is a very important aspect of learning nowadays, much more than before, much more than before. Karina, yes, according to each specific task. If you, in a class that is, let's say, 40 minutes or 45 minutes long, you use 5 different apps, that's a mess and probably meaningless. Okay, so let me go on. So we remember all the different stages, and also we have to analyze some other factors that we have faced just recently. The first one, look at the pictures. The first picture has to do with being isolated, but not physically, not socially, not economically, because there are people who live far away. There are people who are poor, and we say, well, they are poor, they have no access to a good internet service. Mind you, I've got students who live in private neighborhoods, and because they live far away and they go to very, very, very expensive schools, but because they live far away, they have no internet connection either. So it's no longer a question of social or economic situation or a geographic location. It's simply internet connection. Okay, or there are people who live down in Santa Cruz, and that's another problem because it's a very windy area. Okay, so internet connection is the first thing that you have to consider, and there are times for that, and very often the time when you have good connection, well, that time you have to use it for your lessons, but it takes time to discover when that time is. Okay, now the first issue we had is, okay, books. And I've got some people sending me emails asking me, what should I do if my children haven't bought a book yet? What can I do? There is so much online. Danger, danger, danger. Be careful, people. I always say, not everybody is ready to write a book. This is why there are authors. This is why there are experts. And we are never good at everything. The one who is good in kinder, who is good at teaching kinder, is usually not very good when teaching in secondary school. I mean, we specialize in one area, in one section, in one kind of learner. And online, you've got absolutely everything. You got free worksheets, free videos, free everything, but not everything is good. So be careful. If your students are not choosing a book because they haven't got a book yet, most publishers, Macmillan, we have, please contact your local rep because we can give you free access for some time until your students get the book. And a book has got a philosophy. A book has got a grading. A book will make you feel confident. What you have in a book has been edited professionally, edited carefully. What you have online, I have seen hundreds of things full of mistakes because anybody can publish anything online. We have to be very careful. As regards, another thing we have to consider is the technological skills of the children. Sometimes we start playing, we ask them to do things, and they just cannot do it. And so then we get parents complaining, or parents interfering, or parents joining in. Okay, so we have to be very careful. And another thing is, well, technological skills, that goes together with assessment. What am I assessing? What they know, or if they can type properly? What they know, or if they can use a certain program? I had just, as an anecdote, I had a mid-year exam in a school that I assessed externally, and they had to upload the exams they were writing. A lot of students uploaded the exam, but the exam was empty. They didn't save the material they had written, so it was not recorded. Those are technological aspects that teachers should see to the moment they decide a platform. When you decide which platform or which app, you have to make sure you assess the skills your students have. Because in terms of aspirations, yes, I can try to use a lot of things, but perhaps I'm not being practical. We need to be careful. Karina is saying we need to be careful and check and make sure, definitely. Check and double check. What about literacy? This is the most difficult issue. Teaching young learners, teaching them how to read and write in English when you don't see them, when it's no longer a hands-on approach, when you cannot encourage them properly because you are at a distance. Okay, so this is the most difficult part. Again, what will happen when we assess them? Will we evaluate what they have learned, or the fact that they didn't have enough time, or that they didn't have enough quality time to learn how to read and write? Timing. The computer is not the same. If we had problems before when we were face to face in the classroom, now we have to add the technological difficulty. Every time the child has no connection, every time he presses the wrong key, and everything is timing. The timing has to be adjusted as well. Communication with parents, a great issue. We have to be strict, extremely clear, everything in writing, everything in writing. Remember that it may be good or bad, we are being watched all the time. Now, when we speak, The father or mother is there listening, maybe paying attention or not, maybe participating or not, maybe helping or not, but they are there. So if we are good, we are bright. If we are not so good, we are a disaster. There's nothing in between, okay? We need to make a balance between, okay, synchronous and asynchronous learning and teaching, definitely. This is when I talked about time, this is what I referred to. Most teachers in most places have decided to cater for students' needs and for their own needs in this way. They divided their time into two, synchronous and asynchronous learning and teaching. Be careful. We have to be very careful, and I'm going to be very honest. I am in contact with different teachers all over the country, and the results we are having are not that good talking about asynchronous teaching, because English is a language, and the language is learned using it, practicing it, playing with it. So if you had, for example, imagine you worked at an institute and you had 3 hours of English a week, and now you decided that in this context, not to make students so tired, my lessons are going to be just 40 minutes long instead of an hour, and well, it's going to be less time, and it's never enough. Ideally, the amount of time should be the same, but in such a way, respecting students' needs, using variety, catering for all the visual aspects and all the dynamic part of the lesson in such a way that the child doesn't get so tired. So we are being observed and parents are waiting for results. We have to be very careful. Children with special needs. If before the pandemic, we had very little information, and very often we discovered that something was wrong in the, I don't know, in June or July, because we guessed that something was wrong with that or this boy. Now, in this context, we know less. Very often, we discover that the child doesn't like to have the camera on, that he doesn't like to get connected, that he takes longer to hand in the work. But in general, what we have seen is that children with special needs, in terms of attention, in terms of autistic children, in terms of even dyslexic children, in this context, they are doing better than in the classroom. Why? Because they can have their own timing. Because they don't have the pressure of all the other 29 students raise their hands saying, I me, they feel so pressed. So this is an advantage. What we have lost, and it would be very interesting to recover somehow, is this multisensorial dimension of the classroom, the pair work, the group work, the playing. Many teachers include very simple tasks, like imagine you have taught the colors. Okay, now you've got 2 seconds to stand up, walk all around your house and try to bring something orange. And or you give your students number. Mary is number 1, Pedrito is number 2, Susanita is number 3. Okay, from 1 to 5, you get something orange. From 5 to 10, you get something blue. From 10 to 15, you get something green. And then they come and bring something personal. And that movement, that sharing, in a way, gives the virtual lesson this multisensorial dimension. But the hugging, the pushing, the good and bad things of the multisensorial dimension are lost, have been lost. And this is something that we will have to work very, very hard to get back. I think that the most important part of our going back to school will be the bonding. The bonding. Don't forget that word. Children are touched, of all ages, children and teenagers. They miss different things. We will have to work very hard. Little children have lost interest. Little children don't want to get connected. Little children don't understand what is going on. The older ones in the primary, they are fed up. And the ones in secondary, they want to have fun. So all that we will have to pay a lot of attention to when we go back, because if first we don't develop some kind of bonding, and we do as teachers, then we will not get any kind of learning. Paula says, I have played Simon Says with bringing things. Exactly, that sort of thing. Stand up, go and bring. That adds a lot of salt and pepper, as I said. Without bonding, there is no teaching. Exactly. Okay. Right. So, and when we talk about practical ideas, apart from all the apps and platforms that you can use, and not all platforms work in the same way, not all platforms are economical, not in terms of money, I mean in terms of how practical they are and how much time they save, okay? Then remember that you always need a second plan, a second alternative, because maybe what you thought was going to be a game doesn't turn out to be one, because there is a power cut, because they don't understand the instructions, because there is some kind of delay, okay? Then, when you choose materials to use in class, you may scan your own material, but remember that the quality of the material you see scanned on your own screen is not the same quality as what the child sees. Very often it's not clear. If you add the fact that a lot of students use just a mobile phone, because they don't use the laptop in general, they use a mobile, that becomes very, very small. So there, the quality of the text and the visual impact of the text loses a lot of quality, a lot of effect. The best thing is to use a digital book. If you have access to a digital book, that would be great. When you Google worksheets, if the worksheets don't belong to a book that you are using, and when you use, for example, Macmillan's books, most of our books have got downloadable and printable worksheets, photocopyable worksheets. In this case, you can upload them onto a platform or use the platform that the book has and show them, share them with your students. But if you Google, there are hundreds of worksheets. Please don't just read the title. Simple anecdote. A private student of mine who goes to school, the teacher had just taught present perfect. Okay, the teacher Googled present perfect worksheets. She chose one because it looked clear, because it was a dialogue, and because it had like a nice look. But what happened? Probably the teacher did not read the worksheet through. The teacher just read the title and that was it. That was present perfect, but it was the contrast between present perfect and past. So the question went, have you ever blah, blah, blah? Yes, I have. I did it last year. But she had not taught the contrast between present perfect and past. She had only taught present perfect with just. So you see how very simple things, a very simple mistake, like not reading all the activity, may lead to failure, confusion, students don't understanding, okay? Maria is saying, I used a poem and asked students to type in Mentimeter the words they could recognize. Yes, Mentimeter is very nice for surveys and all that. Yes, it's very practical. Mind you, it's very practical, but it's just for that. It's just for words. It's not productive. If then you don't use what Mentimeter gives you orally, it's just that. It becomes passive. That is a clear example. There are many, I mean, each app has got a reason why it was created. So we have to use it for that purpose, not for another one. And remember that in the case of English, what we should aim at is production, because otherwise they don't speak, and English is to be spoken. Third, well, of course, we go on with this, our own material. A lot of teachers are creating their own material. It's very funny or sad, I don't know. Sometimes we watch teachers who are just beginning, and okay, I mean, we have to encourage them, and I understand that, but we have to be very careful, because there is a lot of material, there are lots of videos that are actually full of mistakes. So if you create your own material, be careful. read it properly, make sure it has no mistakes, devote your time to it. The same with YouTube videos, exactly the same. There are many videos that have mistakes in pronunciation, mistakes in grammar. There are grammar explanations. There are teachers explaining grammar in a way that is absolutely incorrect. So watch all the video and make sure that that is exactly what you want. Above all, the third piece of advice I think is essential for the future. Keep record of everything. There are many books that in the digital component allow us to keep records. Otherwise, copybook, pen in your hand, please keep record of everything, who is present and who is absent, who uploads the piece of work, who sends you the message, who doesn't send you the message, and when, if they comply with all the requirements, with all the instructions. It's very important because there will be a time when we will go back to classrooms and we will have to give a mark. Apparently now, we're not supposed to mark or grade the students, or we can grade their work in a very vague way. And the idea is not to frustrate students and to, in a way, take into consideration that the situation is unusual. I definitely agree. But when we go back to the classroom, we will be asked, what is this good? Is it a 6 or a 7? Is it a passing mark or not? That information will allow you to, without that information, you will not be able to account for your work. Okay, it's very important. I cannot grade them, says Marianela. Of course, you can just check. But there will be a time when parents will want to know and when we will have to make a difference. This year, probably it will not be this year, but next year, what will happen? Or maybe in December, what will happen? Will it be the same? And will it be the same in first and second as in sixth and seventh? We don't know. So because we don't know, we have to be very careful. And then if you are beginning with everything, with technology, with a book, start small. Use what you feel confident using. Don't go crazy about trying everything all together. It will not work. And when it doesn't work, you lose your authority. That's the negative part. So, wants to Penglish, says Analia. Yes, it's very good. I struggle with evaluation. Yes, we are coming to that point in a minute. We are coming to that point, Mariana, very soon. When we talk about teaching, one very important part is visual contact and bonding. So let's take this to the virtual classroom. Visual contact means face-to-face teaching. I understand that we are working 3 times as much. Sometimes we have to deliver the same lesson 3 or 4 times. Unfortunately, it is like that. But visual contact for the child is essential. Rhythm and variety. This is different now. It's different. Maybe shorter lessons, okay, then they have to be more frequent. But the lesson should have the same rhythm as variety as the previous physical face-to-face lessons used to have. It's not that because it's virtual, they can spend all the time doing an activity that I uploaded onto Google Classroom. I mean, there should be games and visuals, and even when it is virtual. Another thing that we very often forget in this virtual context is that we have to teach them how to make questions. Very often, because we don't have group work activity, we forget about making questions. And making questions is an essential part of the language. So remember to include in your programs how to make questions, and you will have to include some kind of group work activity. If not, when you have everybody there online, okay, Pedrito, you ask Marianita. But question making is essential. And somebody talked about evaluation. Evaluation, the beginning of evaluation and assessment is feedback and monitoring. And the question we have to ask ourselves is when and how. We all agree that feedback and monitoring are essential. Now, when and how? There are different ways. Of course, ideally, if you think about process learning, process writing, process productions, it has to be an on-task kind of feedback. And the only way in which you can give them on task is through a drive. Like, for example, when they are writing, the only way in which you can guide their work as they are writing is through a drive. And I don't think that young primary learners can use a drive. For the secondary school, it may be okay. On task, maybe just orally as you have them all on the screen. That is more difficult. So what we do is probably 90% of the teachers post-task feedback, post-task monitoring, which is not ideal. And very often, okay, we take our time to correct what they have uploaded or what they have sent us. Very often after the lesson, they send us, and sometimes they send very, very small photos. And when we enlarge the photos, we cannot see anything. Well, it happens to everybody. We try and write comments and we ask them to rewrite. The problem is that they don't read our comments. They take ages to rewrite it, so my feedback loses its value. It leads to no internalization on the part of the student. The new version is okay. I don't write comments. I just record a message and send a WhatsApp message explaining and asking the child to redo. That is a little bit more effective and more practical because listening to it is easier, faster. But the best thing, going back to the visual contact I mentioned at the beginning and to the bonding, maybe it takes a bit more time, but it's nicer also for us, for me at least, is to record a video explaining, smiling, making it more personal and asking that boy or girl to please redo the activity. A video is much better than just comments. Patricia is saying, yes, WhatsApp is effective and you make sure your students will receive the message. Exactly. And it's more spontaneous if you want. But instead of just a message, I think that a WhatsApp video is much more effective. And then, yes, of course, you choose the general mistake and you speak about it the following class for group errors. Now, thinking about this virtual environment, considering the effort it is for the child and for the parent, considering that they have to think about the connectivity and get everything ready and make sure that the parents don't interrupt, and remember that it's very important to ask them. We should ask for student feedback. Did you feel confident? Did you like this new app I tried? What part of the lesson did you like best of all and why? What do you think about this exercise? Because they will be honest and tell you, no, it's a mess. No, I didn't get it. No, I didn't like it. Or I have tried a new one that is better. Okay? So ask them what they think. That's very important. And here we are. Considering that this is a very unusual situation, but this unusual situation, at least in Argentina, there are people from other countries, and maybe you will go back to your classes sooner, or people in Argentina, maybe in other provinces, you will go back to your classes faster, sooner than me, for example, in Buenos Aires. But this is a very unusual situation. And when we do go back, the protocols will be so strict that we will not have 30 students in the same classroom. So let's try and use different things. First of all, vlogging. Remember that videos are effective. Videos show you all the body language. And real life English is body language. And also there is a psychological component there. All the body language can give you a lot of information. And they like blogging. And in a way, once they get used to it, they can give you a lot of information through their videos. Voice recordings, if you cannot send videos, voice recordings, at least that. This is much better than written materials, okay? Remember to use and to ask them to use their own photographs. Forget about photos from the internet, forget about flashcards, and okay, of course you can use them, but what is much more effective is to ask students to bring and share their own photographs. because they will give you information about the context and the family and what they like and what they don't like, because they will feel the learning is more personalized, and because it will give them a chance to speak about themselves and to learn and show what they have learned, like colors or present perfect or simple past, in connection with their reality. We always say that our teaching has to be realistic and meaningful and purposeful. Well, when they use their own photographs, they are putting together the grammar and vocabulary they have learned with their own real present time situation. So that makes it meaningful. And we have to hear it. Marianela is saying I use both, sometimes videos, sometimes voice. Good. And they send me their recordings. Great. Recording, of course, it takes time. I understand that. After that, you have to listen, because in the same way, you see when they have received your WhatsApp message, they see when you have received theirs, and you don't have time to correct it. So it's a situation that goes for both, for teachers and for students. Now, perhaps the best way is to send the task when you know you will be able to correct it. But giving immediate feedback is very, very, very important. Okay. We use Padlet, so they upload their videos and audios for everybody to watch and listen. Very good. Yeah. We have to be very careful. There are children with special needs, maybe don't want everybody to see the videos. So in that case, you watch it first. They send it to you first, and you ask them for permission. Can I share this with the others? Some children may need that privacy, may need that. Can I share the rest? We have to go step by step. Not everybody wants to share videos with everybody. Okay. I always correct everything, says Marianela. I totally agree that feedback should be immediate. It should. Sometimes we don't have all our time, because after all, we've got a family, we've got children or a husband or a cat or a dog or whatever, and we also need time. So it's understandable. But it doesn't make any sense if they send you a video and you just watch it 2 weeks later. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to be honest with ourselves, okay? And we have another must. So I would say simple things, voice or videos, photographs. We have to cater for the lack of bonding and the lack of socialization. We have to use some kind of group work, some kind of pair work. Either Menganito or Susanita, you ask Fernandito, or if you use Zoom, for example, you can form groups. The platform allows you to form groups. It doesn't matter how. They can use WhatsApp. You can, for example, recommend a film or share with them a short YouTube video. You invite them to watch it together or to watch individually, but then they should, via WhatsApp, talk about it and make a presentation or give their opinion or something the following class. You can give them the group work as homework. The important thing is not when. The important thing is that it should be there. What they need is not lessons. What they need is recovering the classroom as it was before and the aspects of the classroom that made it a real classroom. Recovering that choreography of bodies, as Ines Hussein says, okay? And remember that we are educators before we are teachers of English. So we have to teach, not just say, not just repeat, not just demand, explain and educate about certain very simple things, like remember that you need a copybook, and your copybook or your folder or whatever has to be next to the computer, next to the mobile phone every single day, because there's a moment when you will need to write. And maybe you use a platform that allows you to share a screen, like Zoom, for example. If you don't, it doesn't matter. You can use a sheet of paper and show them. Like here, I have written my email address, for example, here for you to see. Or in Argentina, we have Pizarra Mágica. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that there are moments. And even though we are teaching in this virtual but technological environment, it doesn't mean that they don't have to write. They do have to write. And they do have to keep a record of what they are learning. And they do need a copybook and a pen or pencil. And so teach them to do all that. Teach them and the parents that they need a certain space. Because when there is a lesson, the brain and the body have to get ready for the lesson. In the same way that when you do gym, you have a warm-up. Well, to learn English, you need a space, you need to sit down, and you need a certain body posture. The child should not be lying in bed, because that's not how the best kind of learning takes place. So all that, things that we used to take for granted, now they have to be taught. Cameras on, because unless there is a problem, some children, they have connectivity problems, or some children, the laptop, the camera is not working, you may accept all that, but the camera has to be on, because the face gives me information. I can see if a child is paying attention or not. I can see if something is happening at home and I need to know. I can see everything if I look at the child. So cameras on, get ready for the lesson, greet everybody, ask how they are feeling, ask if the family is okay, and remember that it's an effort for everybody. In the same way we are making an effort, discovering new technological strategies, trying to get material from here, there, and everywhere, attending seminars, opening the doors. My house has become a public place. Well, they are also making an effort. And we haven't mentioned the fact that not every family gets along. There are many families that have problems, and this lockdown, lock-in, is leading to serious trouble that is affecting the child seriously, emotionally, socially, in terms of learning, academically. So the child is also making an effort. Thank everybody just for attending the lesson. Thank everybody just for sending you the photo of the homework, even if it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay? I think it's this new reality, and it's part of being a teacher in this situation. 12-year, I think we shouldn't oblige them to turn on their cameras, says Ruth. Oh, how difficult. Nothing has been written about it, and I can't tell you that you can oblige them. What I tell you is that face-to-face is not the same with the camera off. With the camera off, you don't know what is happening. I may accept the camera off if we are talking about university, if we are talking about tertiary levels. Teenagers are very smart at using all this. They are very smart at managing situations. So how do you know if they are or if they are not? It's very difficult. Unless they have a problem. Of course, if they tell you, I've got a student, for example, who is within the autistic spectrum. He cannot stand face-to-face communication. In that case, I know that he's there. He doesn't even send me messages through the group screen, let's say. He sends me private messages on WhatsApp while we are having a Zoom session. But that is a special situation, and we have talked it over. I cannot oblige him. It's completely different. But in general, what if you have 15 or 20 and nobody switches on the camera? What control can you have? It's very difficult. This is very personal, but I invite my students to have the cameras on. I allow them to have the mics off if they need to, but because I am all the time talking to them and asking them to do things, in general, the mics are on all the time. But the cameras for me are essential, okay, unless they have a particular situation. Susanna says, in one of my classes today, a student wanted to show me his new pet, a tiny puppet. So I told him to bring it close to the camera. He was so happy. That very small and simple thing makes a difference. It opens your heart and his heart. The class has become something completely different in terms of emotions to that child. Okay, Graciela says, I invite them too, but if they don't want, I don't insist. Well, okay. Now, I wouldn't allow them to say no all the time. For me, honestly, it's very, very important. It gives me a lot of information and it's part of the assessment I need. Mind you, it also depends on the context. I have had classes with students who are really poor and they are ashamed of the physical environment. And that I understand perfectly well. But that also you perceive. So in that moment, you may make a comment to make them feel more comfortable, and that's it. Okay. Sometimes they are ashamed of the walls that are not well painted, of the furniture they have that looks, that is also, I mean, we are opening the doors to our house. So it's really understandable. Now, I insist and I explain it to them and to their parents. I'm not here to pay attention to the wall or to the curtains or to the picture that is hanging on your wall. I'm here to just look at your face. So maybe you can put the camera in such a way that I can only see your face. That's the only thing I'm interested in. I speak about it openly with them. Paula says, one teen student told me for some months that his camera was broken and we were on quarantine, so I didn't say anything. Then I talked to his mom and she told me that he had no problems at all. Now he is with his camera on. Well, that is very typical. Teenagers don't want to be seen. Maybe they are lying in bed. Very often they lie in bed while they are learning. So I insist on that, but this is personal. Okay. So focus goes on and okay, yes, all right. I expect them to change. My kids do so. They felt like turning off the cameras at first. One of them used a teddy as an avatar. Yeah, yes, the avatars are, they think it's the same. I explain everything to them. I tell them why I want to see the cameras. And I tell them, would you feel the same if I were talking to you with my camera off? Would it be the same? And when they realize, maybe one day they try, and I say, great, how nice to see you. And then they start trying again. Flip flops, yes. Well, this teacher, this experienced pedagogue, actually, Ines Husserl, says we are learning to teach in slippers. In the same way they wear flip-flops, we are learning to teach in slippers. Is that bad? No, no, not at all. I teach a lot, and I do virtual sessions a lot. And very often I need to drink something, but I don't drink coffee. I have mate. So not now, because I try to be respectful and this is more formal. But in my everyday sessions, I have my mate next to me. And it doesn't change the quality of my teaching. It's the normal Alejandra. And it's good that they should see that. Okay? Um, Elena says, "Oh my God, Norma." Yeah, of course it is. Okay, so at this time, in this difficult situation, in this unusual situation, we need more than ever, teachers who help each and every student. And this question of the camera refers to this: each and every student. There is one who for some reason doesn't want to have the camera on. Maybe when we discover what that reason is, we will be able to help him. Okay? We need teachers who are flexible and understanding, more flexible than before in terms of timing, in terms of how much homework, in terms of when the homework is due, more understanding in terms of, oh, I forgot, or my connectivity is not very good, or if you are working for a private institute, parents who forget to pay or who don't know how to pay, or I mean, everything has changed. We have to be flexible and understanding. We have to be realistic as to what to expect in terms of what we are giving and with what purpose. As I said before, it's not the amount of time, it's not the number of applications or worksheets, it's much more than that. Of all that, with what purpose? Have I practiced enough? Have they had enough time and enough opportunities to produce? Or is it just games and words and things that look nice and things that are entertaining? but then they affect the result in terms of content. Camila says it's mate time in Argentina. You are welcome to have your mates with you. I can't now, but I will in a minute. I like what Maria Jose is saying. Look at this. I gave them a tour of my house, and after that, everybody had such a good time. They wanted to share theirs and name the places, furniture, things. That is great. That is great. And when I mentioned photographs, I mean, you can, for example, if you are teaching routine, every book has got photos of people having a shower, people having breakfast. Why don't you invite them to take a photo of the cat eating, of the mother cooking, and then you take a photo of yourself cooking. And if you can ask somebody in your house to take a photo of yourself cooking, and if possible, elegantly and more or less something that you can manage in your classroom, you can have a photo but wearing pajamas. That will make you a normal person for them. It will give them the idea that you are nearer. Emotionally, it has a completely different effect. Ah, she does the same as my mom. And it will be great. Nowadays, more than if, this is why I told you at the beginning, everybody thinks about apps and technology. And I agree, they are a tool and they are an important tool. But now it's the bonding. Now it's time to show that we care. Now it's time to show that we are accompanying all the situation. We have to go personal. That's the word, okay? So we have to be realistic as to what to expect. We have to provide scaffolding. And look at this picture of the daddy carrying a child. Very often, technically, we speak about scaffolding. That's a technical word. But scaffolding, it's not only in terms of content. Scaffolding goes perfectly well for this context in terms of emotions. When do you pick up a child, like the father is doing in the picture as you walk? When the child is tired, when it's raining, when there is too much water or somewhere that is dangerous and you don't want the child to have an accident, when you are helping the child to get to his destination. That is exactly the same. We want the child to learn. So we have to hold the child in our arms in a way and help them move on. Now, with or without connectivity, with or without a laptop, with or without a good smartphone, with or without digital materials. This is the kind of scaffolding we need. And it has to do with bonding, and it has to do with face to face, and it has to do with accepting a lot of things that we were not ready to accept. And somebody wrote, for the same money. Yes, it's for the same money. Unfortunately, it's for the same money. And we need teachers who don't give up. I think we have already gone through the most dangerous part, and we have already learned, and we have already got used to this. So now we are ready not to give up. I follow you. Thank you, Maria Jose. Thank you very much for your words. Okay, and now we come to assessment, and in the middle of all this, assessment, because it's true that we are not supposed to mark our students. In most schools, we can't. We just have to correct. We can write comments. Very good work. Keep on trying. Go ahead. But it's also true, and here we have different teachers. It's also true that many institutions have got exams. It's also true that many students will sit for some kind of exam, local or international. What about assessment then? When we talk about assessment, give me a second. Okay, we will have to consider a lot of things. We will have to prepare the students for that. And if they have an exam, and the first question is, will the examination board keep the same style, the same aims, the same kind of material? Many boards are rethinking. Many boards are considering what they will do. Others will stick to the same. Then, What about in general, if they don't sit for an exam, but I want to assess them and I am allowed eventually to give them a mark? Will it be written or oral? How? Will I continue using a platform? Which one? Consider what I told you. A lot of students uploaded the exams, but they didn't, the material was not written. It was empty, so I couldn't give them a mark. Will the exam be for everybody the same? If we are talking about special times, we are talking about children who have no connectivity, we are talking about children who just sent the homework and using photographs that I could hardly correct. What about the technological skills? Will the exam really reflect what they know, or will they have all the tools that will correct their work? And if the child is smart, he will use all those tools, and the one who is not smart will not be able to use those tools, and so he will be at a disadvantage. And when we talk about assessment, we assess the students, but we first of all have to assess our own learning process. What about my own learning? Now there is the time has come after all this experience. The time has come for us to choose the relevant material, technology, apps, platforms. Which one is economical? Which one is practical and for what? Which one do my students prefer and why? Which one shall I use for the exams? How? Personalization. How do I personalize my lessons, my activities, my feedback? And what can I change to help them be able to learn? There have always been students who find it harder. There have always been students with difficulty. There have always been children who have some kind of problem, family problem, social problem, whatever. What can I do? Now there is no bonding as it was as we had before, but there is a different kind of bonding. And I, together with all the other teachers, we have to be ready to help. Children are not having a good time at all. So we have to be ready to help. And the best way, because we are teachers, is to teach them and to help them learn. So what the first question is not why they didn't pass, it's not why or where they failed. The first question is, what can I do to make them learn? So it doesn't matter which super teacher you are. There are different kinds. Slimmer, younger, older, more experienced, less experienced, better at technology, not so good at technology. What is important is that you become some kind of special teacher, an unforgettable teacher, somebody that your students will always remember. So the most important thing is not to become a hero in the sense of a superhero, but super teacher in the sense of teaching everybody, teaching everybody. Marcela, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. I think it's time to start reflecting. I think it's time to go back more than ever to our teaching skills. It's time not to forget that with all the technology, we have to go back to real teaching, and we have to make content with inverted commas to the aims we have in the lessons. It's not just having fun. It's not just the 40 minutes just because it's 40 minutes. We have to go back to teaching questions, to teaching, yes, in a different way. But remember that this will be over soon, sooner, later, and we will go back to class. And when we go back to class, we need a basis. We need something to somewhere to start from. And this is the moment to get that something that will help us to start from there when we go back to classrooms. So bonding is the key word. Remember that bonding has to do with face-to-face and face-to-face work, and it has to do with group work. Don't forget about questions, and don't forget about group work, and don't forget about videos and photos. They are essential because they are face-to-face and they are personal. Okay. Um, Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. if you want material, if you want to try Macmillan's material, remember that you can ask for help. You can connect your local rep. We've got plenty of free material for you to try. And remember that if you adopt our series, we can offer online training for the teachers in the school about that material or about any methodology topic that you are interested in. Okay, so you can contact your local rep, or I will, in the chat, I will write my email so you can contact me too. Okay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your lovely comments. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm writing my email. Okay. Okay, hope to see you soon. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your participation. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much. Okay.